rape, rape culture, sexual harassment. When you heard these words, you probably felt uneasy or confused. To be honest with you, I felt the same standing up here saying it in front of you all today. But what if I told you that this uneasiness that we feel when discussing this topic is what actually allows it to be perpetuated and continued in the media that we see, in the headlines that we see on the news, in our everyday walk of life in our society? Today, my topic that I'm discussing is rape culture. Marshall University defined rape culture as being prevalent, and it is in which sexual violence is portrayed against women and is normalized and excused by popular culture. Rape culture is perpetualized through the use of misogynistic language and the glamorization of sexual violence, which thereby creates a society that disregards women's safety and women's rights. I'm credible to speak on this topic due to my extensive research that I've compiled and the various interviews I've conducted with victims of this heinous act. Today, we'll be unmasking a subject that many of us have disregarded due to the negative stigma associated with it. And for some, they don't even see it as a crime until it affects someone that they know or someone that they care about. To go over the statistics to start us off, the Center of Disease and Control Prevention, otherwise known as the CDC, compiled data in 2015 that stated 1 in 5 women reported being victims of sexual assault in their lifetime, with 1 in 14 men reporting being victims of sexual assault in their lifetime. Comparing this data now to data compiled in 2019, the numbers have increased to now 1 in 3 women being reporting having become victims of sexual assault in their lifetime, and 1 in 4 men now, instead of 1 in 14, having reported being victims of sexual assault in their lifetime. Also keep in mind that sexual violence starts early, which is something that I wasn't even aware of. Statistics indicate that 1 in 3 females that have been the victim of rape reported that it was between the ages of 11 and 17, with 1 in 8 of those victims being reported that it occurred before the age of 10. Likewise, 1 in 4 men have experienced being victimized between the age of 11 and 17, and 1 in 4 men reported that it occurred before the age of 10. Education, I say, would be the key to eradicating rape culture and also educating and making people aware of the presence of rape culture in our society. We should respect physical space and respect the decision not to have sex. Since the numbers show that sexual violence doesn't start in college, I feel it would be imperative to teach consent to our children at a very young age. You see, growing up, our parents, and if you are a parent, you teach your children manners, you teach them please and thank you, and you also teach them not to take candy from strangers and to not get in the car with any strangers. So, being a parent and raising your child, you wouldn't necessarily expect them to do something like this. But teaching the importance of consent not only teaches children as they grow up and instilling it in our family values, it not only allows them to grow up having these values all through their life, but it also educates them, because realistically, how can they combat something that they know nothing about? You see, we live in a society that teaches don't get raped rather than do not rape. You see, sexual violence and sexual assault is more so controlled. By blaming the victim for sexual violence and also tasking the victim with preventative measures, we actually are unable to resolve the problem, because realistically, only people that can do something and only people that are tasked with doing something are the victims after they become victims, and that doesn't make sense. Now that we've discussed who can be affected by rape culture and sexual violence, let's talk about sexual assault. Safe Horizons defines it as a lack of consent in any type of sexual act. It's important to remember that you did not give consent if you were incapacitated, indicated that you did not want to continue, or if you changed your mind, or were pressured or coerced. Now, for coercion, it's basically being forced into a sexual act. Now, there are various methods, but the 3 I will discuss briefly would be physical, such as the use of a weapon, financial, such as monetary gain, or stripping away of money, and also emotional and mental. With this in mind, I'm sure everyone here is aware of what is wrong with sexual violence and rape, but the preventative measures that they have in place vary greatly. Police and Public Safety of Charlotte University had preventative measures for reducing the chances of becoming a victim, such as avoiding hazardous situations. We've heard of these type of situations. Oh, don't walk into that alley, or stay in the group when you're going somewhere, or you only have one drink when you go to a party. Now, these type of preventative measures are limiting, and some of them are just unrealistic. Now, if you said you were going to a party, oh, I'm trying to get drunk and pass out. Now I would say, we should limit that type of behavior. But realistically, if you go to a party, one drink, know your limit, but one drink should be fairly acceptable. And we shouldn't task the victim with trying to prevent something that they really have no control. Communicating your limits and assertively, I would add that in communicating your limits assertively is something that I would add because there's the connotation of stereotypical values of men and women. Men are stereotypically deemed to be assertive. So when they say something, people they just accept it, leave it alone. Whereas the women, if they were to say the same thing, people would sometimes shrug it off. So I want to encourage you all to just be assertive and know that when you say something, people should respect it, and you should just take it at full value and mean it. Trust your instincts. The scenario here is if you go to the bathroom and you leave your drink, and you come back, and you think something's wrong with the drink, trust your instincts. Don't drink the drink. That's one of the preventative measures that they had there. And also self-defense. If all else fails, fight off the attacker. While these preventative measures I find are indeed helpful, my issue lies in the fact that we have preventative measures to begin with. Now what I will discuss is the issues of rape, sexual violence, and these domestic violence, and all those other issues. When all those things in the grand scheme of things, they're called women's issues, which I find quite odd. Let's see, Jackson Katz, during his TED Talk, stated that sexual assault, sexual harassment, and all these things are lumped in under women's issues, and he argued, and I agreed with the fact that these shouldn't be titled women's issues, but they should in fact be titled men's issues. He's quoted with saying that people believe that sexual assault and sexual violence are women's issues that good men help out with. And that only allows for men to become bystanders and just allow it to continue to be perpetuated and happening. And in fact, some even turn a blind eye to it. Oh, it's a women's issue. They got it. They don't need me. So by stating that it is a men's issue and changing that connotation that it's a women's issue that good men help out with, now men will be held accountable, and now women and men can work together to create a change. Beatrix Lockwood, a journalist, stated 3 points that I agree with that I will be sharing with you today on solutions, which would be teaching children about consent, challenging the media, and challenging stereotypical hypermasculine traits. By teaching children the importance of consent, we not only educate them on the presence of rape culture and also those around us of rape culture, we also educate them from a young age on the importance of consent so that they grow up believing in consent and their actions will show that. Challenging the media. In music and in TV shows and movies, pop culture as a whole, in culture as a whole, we see basically the sexual glorification of women's bodies, and through that also leads into hypermasculinization, basically teaching men the stereotypical traits of a man, saying that he needs to be overly dominant, overly aggressive, and we also teach women not to be cold, and we also encourage men to get some by any means. Now, what I just said just now is actually rape. Get some by any means. It doesn't make sense. Now, while we know rape is illegal, we inadvertently encourage it and normalize it, and that's the terrifying power of rape culture in our society today. In conclusion, it is my hope that after this discussion, you've now seen the importance of having that uneasy conversation, not only with those around you, but also your family, friends, and anyone that you come into contact with. Because the more people that we make aware of this, they now become aware of the presence of rape culture, and now they're able to be accountable and do something to change it. Oftentimes we look for someone else to be the change that we want to see, when in fact we are the change that we're looking for. Education is the most important aspect of this, and I want to say that that by working on this as a whole, we can make sure that this horrible act is eradicated completely.